The understanding of human nature will lead you to an understanding of spiritual nature. You must therefore be a constant and conscientious viewer of every human being and every human event that occurs in front of your eyes. You must view people with a wish to understand their motives, understand what they might be suppressing, understand why they talk and behave the way they do, so that it will help you to understand why you talk and behave the way you do. And then you can grow through a dual viewing of the other person's nature and your nature. You can grow into spiritual understanding and health. Now that's one side of the picture. The other side is, the first side is you watching other people, and the other side is I want you to know that other people are always watching you. Now, they're not watching you with the same motive. They're looking at you always with a degree of self-interest involved. They want to know the kind of a person you are in order to discover how to sell you the product that they have in their briefcase. They want to understand whether you're friendly or unfriendly. They want to study you for their own benefit, which will not include spiritual climbing. They know nothing of that. But here's the main point so far. You are to know that at all times others are looking you over, sizing you up. You sense that, don't you? I want you to do more than sense it underground. I want you to bring it up so that it becomes an easy, conscious understanding on your part that no matter where you go or what you do, hundreds, dozens, or maybe just one pair of eyes are watching what you do, how you gesture, how you talk. This is for their benefit, as I said before, not because they want to get something higher from it, but because it's a natural thing to do which they distort in order to get something from you. Now here's a new world for you to enter after the introduction I've just given you. We've established the fact that everyone is always watching everyone else. Others are always watching your reaction to what they said to you. They're watching how you respond to that shocking unfolding news event on television. You're watching TV together. It is a habit for them to watch you to see what kind of a person you are. Did you get sarcastic over the incident? They saw you get sarcastic. And your sarcasm affected them. Did you get afraid? Did you go into a minor hysterical fit over that incident that you both saw? The point is this. You, yes, you, have a serious responsibility for being strong, because everyone is watching you, and if you are sarcastic, if you are weak, you have contributed your sarcasm and your weakness to the world. And you've contributed to the unhappiness of everyone. Now, you never ever thought of that before in the right way, in the right seriousness, because you don't have a primary motive of using life to become strong. You don't have that yet. You just want to observe with self-interest in mind and be observed with self-interest in mind. But now, right now, in this morning's meeting, you're going to remember everything you've been told, and you're going to put at the top of the list the fact that you help make the world what it is, and it is wicked and mean and sad. You help make the world it is by your level of reaction which others observe. Got it so far? Now I said you have a responsibility. And remember, this responsibility you have to react strong and mature and good toward them. That's also nicely your responsibility toward yourself. Indeed, you are responsible for being strong, so that strength itself is your goodness, and that strength is your happiness. So every time you work to make it better, stronger, clearer for someone else, you automatically do the same for yourself. The two cannot be divided any more than sarcasm and hatred and violence. That can't be separated. If you express violence toward another, you've expressed it toward yourself. The shaking hatred that you have in you has punished you first, and then it punishes the other person, doesn't it? All right. So you understand that there's no division. What you are, what your nature assaults you or helps you as it assaults or helps the other person equally. Now this is a marvelous path to travel. And I want you to do it today and forevermore. I want you to realize, and I'm going to say this in different ways so that it impresses you and you won't forget it, because this is what is good for you. You now have a new, higher, marvelous and healthy responsibility to always, all day long, to always be strong, to be wise, to be in charge of yourself, so that all your words, all your physical gestures, all of what your body expresses, all your emotions, all your thoughts, they all express one thing essentially and basically, which is spiritual self-command. Health. You're expressing health to a world that is unhealthy. And it can contaminate you. Unhealth can't contaminate spiritual health. It can contaminate phony spiritual health, of course. All you have to give to other people, whether it's one in the family, 5 in the family, to the co-workers, to strangers, all you have, listen to this and never forget it, all you have to give and all you are ever going to give is the health of the spiritual life. All you have to give to them is what God has given you because you allowed Him to give it to you. That's it. Now, start in small ways, and one small way to start is for you to realize that you don't do that now? Hardly. How did you violate that rule of spiritual self-expression this morning? In the cafe, riding in the car with someone, try to think of some small way in which you expressed the old nature and they observed that and you made them even more depressed than they were before. Can you think of one, the smallest remark that you made? You're in the car with the people you're traveling with, and someone asked you about something and you were sound asleep. You're only half awake physically anyway, and spiritually asleep, and you sort of gaze dully out the window and let the mechanical negative part of your mind speak for you, and you said, yeah, I guess so. If that's what we have to put up with, I guess we have to put up with it. That's the way the world is. Your lie confirmed their lie, and the weight of depression in that car of several people, the weight pressed down everyone in it. You could have been different in that family gathering. You could have been different. And let me explain so that a confusing thought doesn't come to you. Let me explain how what we understand, we know that family doesn't want help. Those co-workers, they're not interested in spiritual uplifting. They want nothing. That has nothing to do with you being true. The fact that they don't want it. This isn't a game in which you're trying to impress them with how strong and mature you are. It's not a contest. It's simply you, just wanting to be naturally mature, naturally in charge of yourself, because that is the perfect existence for you. And what is the perfect existence for you is the perfect way for you to behave toward them, whether they accept it or reject it. That is not up to you what they do with it. Your plan, your spiritual aim is to simply have every one of your faculties, mental or physical, working on the side of reality itself, so that no matter whether you talk or think or write, then what is expressed in that writing or talking comes from the high place through you and then into the words or on the piece of paper. Now, think long and hard about this, and think long and hard especially about what I'm going to tell you next. It is a shock, a surprise, and a dilemma to people when they see one person behaving rightly. A little statement, perhaps by you, a little statement, just the smallest of morality statement, like, well, I've learned, if I've learned one thing, I've learned that it's simply wrong to ever deliberately put another person under fear. To deliberately scare someone in order to sell them your product or whatever. You make a little right statement like that, it's wrong to put another person under fear, to make them afraid. Someone out there who wants to uplift himself, and there's a long ways from it, of course, but you have made a little remark, you have made a little short ladder for him to begin to climb up. And he will be startled but attracted to what you said, because the truth in what you said matched the little tiny, weak but existing aim that he has in himself to climb the ladder to something higher inside himself. And he will say, wow, did you hear what that man said? Maybe what that speaker said? They said something that brought about a remembrance that rang a little bell in me way deep inside. Because when I was a little child, my parents told me that it is wrong to be argumentative, to be hostile, to fight with people. That's wrong. And this man, here all these years later, made a statement that connected in some way with that. And I remember the pureness, the pure water that I was given as a child and then got polluted by society. But what that statement that man made, that it's wrong to hurt anyone else, he's saying to himself, I know that is true after all. And I know how I covered it up and didn't want to, because I wanted to justify blasting other people, taking advantage of them, because I wanted to get something from them. This man has a long ways to go, just as you have a long ways to go in understanding what I'm talking about. But I'm explaining to you a tremendous opportunity you have for helping another, by helping yourself, by helping yourself, by helping another, because I told you there's no division. Oh, wait till you get to that part, till it becomes so clear to you that we're all in the same boat. Now, a lot of people don't want to stay in that boat. They want to jump off and swim around the shark water. We understand that. Well, I'm saying we all have the same problems. And a few people will want to stay in the boat until it reaches the heaven, the inner heaven. And it's up to you to give them what they're really wanting in their heart. They want to make the complete journey. It's up to you to be so strong and so good, always that way at all times, under all circumstances, that they will make, this will have to come to them, this is their part, they will have to make a final decision as to whether they want to stick around with you and hear more of what you have to say, or whether they don't want it and want to go away and go down, jump out of the boat and go into Sharkland. That happens to every human being who has ever come to a class at New Life. Years ago, today, tomorrow. Everyone goes out of the door making a decision because they know that what they've heard in this room is strong. Now, another part of that, you'll find this especially interesting. You offend someone. How many have ever offended anyone else? Okay, just walking around did it, right? Yeah, walking offense. How many of you went into a connection of seeing offense walking around? See? You hurt someone's feelings. And you've done it for years. And what'd you get? You got a reward, right? Aha! I can make them cry. I can make them sigh. I can make them cringe. I can feel power. You do that very thing inside yourself when you do that, because that's a false affirmation of your false identity of being a strong person. That's phony strength, of course. You said something that was cutting, rude, let's call it a rude remark, and got false pleasure out of it. And one day, after doing this for years to other people, mostly mental, a few times verbal, but this time you said something to someone, and you got the shock of your life. Not because they replied in kind, not because they shook their fist back at you when you shook your fist at them, not because they were rude back. That's nothing. Everybody does that. Neurosis is the most common neurosis on earth, right? Figure that one out. You know what happened? That person, instead of getting hostile and back and nervous, he tossed it off. He didn't get offended. He didn't get hurt. He just, no anger, just, hi. You know? What's this? That person, unknown to you, has achieved a little bit of height on the spiritual staircase, has gone up just a little bit maybe, but enough not to take your bad manners and rudeness seriously. See? Oh, you're going to think about that for a long, long time, and you know what you're going to learn? That person wasn't even trying to teach you anything consciously. That person, by his behavior, and not getting mad, just tossing it off. Maybe you've had this experience in some small ways in the past. That person has taught you, I thought for years that when someone offended me, I had to offend them back. Oh, your set little pattern of behavior has been shattered forever. Pattern of thinking. Because now you're beginning to say, maybe I can do that. He did it, she did it, it tossed it off. Didn't get mad. Oh, that's what's called mature behavior. The word spiritual may not come in. He didn't yell back at me, and I got robbed my usual reward of arousing him to anger. But that's I'm willing to lose that. Is it possible for someone, maybe the whole world, maybe the whole world can insult me, and I'll just act as if nothing happened. Just walk away, happy and smiling. Is that possible? You are being observed by other people by the way you behave toward all the thousands of challenges of the day. Wouldn't you inspire them? I'll answer the question, yes, you would. You would inspire them by not getting mad when they get mad. By not joining their noisy neurosis, whatever the nature may be. By you being a spiritual adult. By you allowing truth to inspire you and react for you. You have inspired those who want inspiration, you understand. You have inspired them by allowing real strength to be revealed in your manner, words, and general behavior. And I'll tell you another law before we go on. The law is each time you give something to someone else, you get more for yourself. Every bit of spirituality you release into a world that needs it so badly, every bit you give, you get more for yourself because you've made room for it. You've been flowing. You've been expressing it. You've been given. See, people who don't come to this class can't understand that. They live in a tight, selfish little world. They're afraid to give us even a smile most of the time. They have to cling to themselves, which means they're simply a clogged human being, tight, nervous, hostile. When you express spirituality, the benefit is two ways. Make that clear in your mind, then we can go on. The other person who wants what you have found will get it and be made stronger themselves, and you've made yourself stronger for yourself. How do we get this strength? I'll give you one way out of many paths we could now travel, but consider this one and act upon it. How do you get this higher strength so that when others observe you, they see strength, self-command in you? How do you get it? One way. You silently tell the world no more faked friendships. No more phony cordialities. No more so-called kindnesses, which are really deceits and surface kindnesses only. Now, this does not mean, of course, that you're going to be rude to anyone, that you're going to consider them an enemy. You must never do that, obviously. But you're telling everyone that regardless of how they behave toward your new kind of behavior, you're not going to pretend that you and that other person have something in common, because you don't. Can you follow that a little bit in your human relationships? Does that uncle, does that cousin, does that brother, sister, the neighbor down the street, your boss, the person you boss, the office, do they come here to class? Would they be interested in coming to class? Or are they interested in getting their dune buggy out in the desert over the weekend and bouncing around? That's enough example and illustration, isn't it? That is what they're interested in, and you are not interested in that. You are interested in finding out how you got into the mess and finding out how to get out of it, right? Your daily contacts with people will always include a realization on your part that you really inhabit and live in a higher world. You as a citizen of the heavenly spiritual kingdom, you are looking down, so to speak. You're looking down at the world, not in a sense of superiority, but you're looking down simply because that's the way it is. Your interests and your motives and your nature is to dwell where you belong. And you belong in the spiritual kingdom, which is strength, which is wisdom, which is resourcefulness. You live from there, and you look down, you know very well. You go into a zoo, you're not supposed to join the animals in the cage. Why do you think you should join the human animals in their places of confinement? And they're all caged, you know that. Caged because simply they are not of a spiritual nature, but have only what a lion, an actual lion or a tiger has. A lion and a tiger and a weasel and a hawk, all they have is mechanical thoughts, right? They think mechanically, of course they do. They have memory. They know where to go back to their nest or go back to prey on some other bird. They have a mechanical memory. That's all they have. What's the difference? The human beings has a possibility, of course, of not being an animal anymore, but most of them do not want that. Now let's go back to the original point a little bit. your true nature, who you really are, is an inspiration, and that's all you should care about. Spiritual inspiration. And you must remember what I just said now. Because being amateurs in the spiritual game, you will bring the old world in and mess things up because you don't realize that your only duty, your only responsibility is to be true to truth. And I'm saying this so that you can watch when the imps try to enter you and tempt you and succeed in some cases in getting you to distort, to make impure what is originally pure. That is, you make a determination and asking God to carry out your determination, because only He can carry it from your agreement to have Him carry it. You go out into daily contacts with other people and you remember the lessons in the talk. Many of them. And it is right to remember, this is not selfish, this is good for you to remember that whatever you give to the world, that is what you get. Because you're giving of whatever your nature is. If you give something out good to the world, you'll get goodness back, not from the world, but more from God. I went into that before. I'm trying to explain to you that the old greedy nature will try to wreck your aim of staying spiritual all the time. It will whisper lies to you. And it will want to make you get distressed, make you feel distressed when someone is rude to you. And I gave you explanations on how to counter that. And what you have to do, essentially, is to have a spiritual memory. So that when the world assaults you, which is the whole business of this maniacal world, their whole business is to assault you, just as they assault themselves. You're to remember that you have vowed to only accept heavenly rewards, not earthly dark rewards, which will help you to refuse to get mad back at someone who's mad at you. No, no, no. I am not going to behave toward you as you just behaved toward me. Oh, I want to. Yeah. That's just, anger is just one of them. There are others joining the insane crowd in their insanity. You join them. No, no, no. But stick with the angry remark that hurts your feelings, tempted to hurt your feelings. At the moment that other person or the news broadcast or the group of people say something that you normally would have taken with offense and replied in kind, at that moment you will remember this talk. And you will remember you'll remember that stranger that was 10 years ago, you couldn't forget it 10 years ago, that stranger that you accidentally met at some place, and you saw him being insulted, and instead of getting mad, you knew in your heart that he didn't take it as an insult. Just set aside for the moment who that person was and how spiritual he was. And just know for the moment, it is possible. not to allow anyone to set me off and get hurt and to destroy me. I saw that man do it. And I saw the other people who had insulted him. I saw them look a little puzzled. They weren't getting their usual reward. But the main thing was the response of the man who refused to get mad. And as I said, you could sense that he wasn't suppressing anger. He really actually wasn't mad. How? You're remembering this. You saw it 10 years ago, and we're all pretty slow students, aren't we? You haven't got very far. 10 years ago, you... I almost cried then. But you remembered it. You remember what happened. This is spiritual memory operating. You recalled that incident, and now the same thing has happened to you. Someone says, you're never going to make it. You've never made it and you never will. Or they implied it. Or they sounded superior to you. And if they sounded superior, then you'd be tempted to feel inferior, right? No. I wanted to shout, but I'm afraid it'd blast the walls down. See how poised I can be when necessary? No. Self-control, right? Right. I didn't forget that incident of that man, that unknown man who showed strength in that 10-second incident 10 years ago. That's what I want for me. And I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. And one way I'm going to get it is to notice how overwhelmingly persistent and falsely powerful those imps are who are whispering to me, you scream back and have a shouting match with him. Defend your rights. Stand up for yourself. Be a real hero. Be strong. See, all these are lies. You say no. And when you say no, because spiritual forces are helping you to say no, a very curiously beneficial feeling will come to you. I'll tell you exactly what it is. That feeling is one in which you can see the following happening inside of you. The man made the rude remark, or what he called and wanted to be a hurtful remark. And you saw the mechanical part of your inner system start to react the way it always reacts. Huh? And a little bit, your face suddenly goes solid. You were joking with him a minute ago, and then all of a blue, he blasted you. It was shocking. And the smile you had on your face a minute ago faded out. Your body tensed up. The mechanical parts of your mind consulted memory to say, oh, how can I protect myself against this assault? And how can I not only protect but also attack too, so I can blast back, so as to keep me safe? You will see for a long time in these personal inner spiritual experiences, you will see the swelling up of the old nature. But you have been a diligent spiritual student, and you've learned to watch the smallest change, nervousness, anxiety. You've learned to watch the smallest shift in your inner nature. And that watchfulness zeroes in on the small first initial a rising of the wish for revenge to strike back. All this has no meaning or interest to the world, obviously. And at the moment you see it is the moment that the strength of heaven, the spirit of goodness, truth, at that moment it comes in. You've noticed how you are tempted to blast back, but you're noticing, knowing that you're ready to fight back. That allowed, that very noticing of it, which means you're apart from it, see, observing it, that means there's space now for the light to come in, which is strength. And it does come in, and a miracle, a miraculous spiritual experience happens, which can happen tens of thousands of times, and will, in just this kind of incident alone. The strength comes to you because you no longer are trying to employ the false and treacherous strength of your own blasting back. See, that's evil, isn't it? Isn't it evil to blast back just because he blasted you? There's no excuse. You're not going to be as sick as he is. So you're not, listen to this, you are not employing false strength. By not employing it, God is able to give you his strength. And he does. There's no failure with God. There's only failure in our staying awake. We fall asleep. At the instant of the attack by the other person, you will become a watchman in the night, a night guard, the night representing all the evil in the world. But you're an alert watchman making your rounds with your flashlight, which you shine on anything suspicious. And the attack comes out of the night. And by the way, it can come out of the night only because you were in the night. The time will come, by the way, when you'll be in the light all the time, so that that expression coming out of the darkness will have no application to you, because you will know that anyone can suddenly go into darkness and attack you. You understand that the whole world is dark. Your lightness, your light, spiritual light, enables you to understand that the whole world is in darkness. Therefore, you're never surprised. If you're ever surprised by evil, that means there's a lot of evil in you yet that's unconscious that you're still using. All right. Your alertness, your wakefulness allows you, in simple terms, to do the right thing with the challenge. It allows you to allow God to do the right thing with the so-called offense. And then you'll never ever be offended again, and you will be in charge of your life, because God is first in charge of your life. Good morning. Truth cannot be imprisoned. Let's take that marvelous thought, carry it around a little bit, and see where it takes us. And it'll take you to higher places. Truth cannot be imprisoned, cannot be confined, can't be blocked, which means that it is always free like a breeze, so that if you want the cooling breeze on the hot day, if you want the cooling breeze of truth, all you have to do is go out into the open and stand where it is, and it will refresh you. Isn't that already a marvelously encouraging thought, that if you're going through your day and have a problem, have a sadness, have a frustration, that all you have to do is place yourself out in the open where truth is, and it will solve the problem for you. But you notice that I said that you have to come out from wherever you are. And that sparked off a few childhood memories, didn't it? Yeah, I knew you'd associate with that. You'd have to come out where you're hiding, which is symbolic of you coming out of your whole self-confined life and existence and drudgery. Which means that you're going to have to know that you are falsely imprisoned. You're imprisoned but falsely so. I told you one time the charges against you are spurious. They've been contrived. But you don't know that. You believe in the charges, therefore you believe in your confinement, therefore you sit in the jail cell inside of yourself, yearning to be free. Just walk out. Do it. What's stopping you? Nothing is, but you think there is, and so you sit there and cry. Well, let's look at some more characteristics of truth already. It's exciting what we found. More characteristics of truth. Can't be confined, can't be stopped. Truth can't be insulted, can't be blocked, can't be intimidated, can't be disappointed. Now, you think of the virtues that I just mentioned. Truth is fearless. We're using different words each time. Truth is fearless, it's bold, it's daring. It absolutely knows what it's doing every second. I said truth knows what it's doing every second, day or night. Now, if you come out from where you are and stand out in the open where its refreshing breeze can reach you, then you will have the virtues and the powers and the strength and the liberty that truth has. Look, why did you come to this talk here tonight? Well, I better explain to you why, because you're not sure. You think you know, and then you have doubts about it. Let me tell you why you came to this talk. Because you have griefs and dullnesses and shames and difficulties, and you don't know what to do with them. And you thought when you entered this room that maybe there was something here for you. I tell you that there is. But I'll also tell you something else, and this is part of the instructions I'm giving you. You say, I come to this talk because I want something that will take away that secret heartache, those shames, that will put me at ease. That's what you want. That's be at ease, right? You're not at ease. You're tense, nervous. Change your mind every few seconds. You want to be at ease. In summary, you say, I want something that will make me feel better, lighter, freer, happier. But now I have to tell you what your problem is. You don't know the difference between what is good and what is bad for you. Oh, you have to go a lot farther back than you think. Oh, we have exposed something of tremendous value to you just then. And let me explain it to you again, so you'll never make that mistake again. You assume, you believe, you hope that you know what is good for you, but you don't. You really, actually do not know what is good for you, because you often choose something, don't you? Choose something thinking that this is going to do it. But it doesn't do it. Now you have to choose again. Now, the next time you choose, you get a quick emotional thrill of some kind of what you choose. You happen to be at a certain place, someone invited you to dinner, you felt good, I'm accepted. Looks okay for a while, and then after the dinner, now you're right back where you started. You cannot, in your present condition, stop walking in a circle. Your own pretense and hope that one day you'll know the difference between good and bad by your methods. You hope that one day you'll be able to stop walking into a circle and be able to walk upward. Not the way you're going about it. You're just going to go out of here and go in a circle unless you put what you're hearing right now in this room, you put it ahead of everything you've ever learned in your entire life. You must put truth first. You haven't been doing that. You haven't even thought about it. You're so excited over getting your own schemes, devious schemes, for making yourself feel a little better. And I better tell you now, and you'll never forget this, I hope. How can a sad, confused, miserable human being make himself feel better? How can the sour water of life rise above its own level? It can't rise above its own level. It can just be agitated like the ocean. The ocean doesn't rise above its own level. It just has a few storms and a few white caps spurting up in a heavy storm. Then there's the big valleys. That's a description of your emotional life, isn't it? Please answer this question to yourself. Why have I clung to the defeat, to the sadness, to the sourness? Why have I clung to it tenaciously and stubbornly and simply not just let it go, which I've heard is possible? What you heard is true. That is a part of truth. Truth, which you really know nothing about, and I'm trying to explain it to you. Truth, not being sad, not being imprisoned, not being weak. It is not what you are. Therefore, it can make you new. It can make you what it is. Then why hasn't it happened to any of you? Why are you still caught in the dizzy circle, seeing the same sights, the same faces, the same problems, the same habits that bind you? I want you to consider this question carefully. Now, I've told you the truth is strong, all powerful. And it can change you. Now, why haven't you chosen to let it? Well, why didn't you, years ago, ask yourself that question and then seek the answer? What have you been doing the last 2 or 3 years alone? You've been going about things your own way. Now you know why you're sad. Your way. You insist on it. And in your concealed conceit, you insist there is no other way. You don't know how wrong you are. You don't know how you sold yourself for a flash of vanity, a flash of what you call a right emotion. You don't know how you've sold You don't know how you've sold your whole life into slavery simply because there is something in you that is afraid to listen and yield to the truth. Listen to what I just said now. I said, there is something in you that doesn't want to hear this talk tonight. May heaven help you if you walk out of here having decided to reject what you've heard. And I should conclude that thought by saying, heaven will never be able to help you, but hell will. Hell will help you in its way by making you even more isolated, more desolate, because you have a chance tonight. Well, how'd you respond to that? I was vocally aggressive. See, I never shout. I'm just vocally aggressive. Will you please consider the possibility that you may be idiotic because you refuse to see why you are inwardly bound. Oh, it's bad enough to be bound, to be imprisoned, isn't it? Isn't it awful? You know very well what I'm talking about when I say you're confined. You're restricted. You're afraid, nervous. Oh, are you nervous? Now, there is nothing at all wrong. There is everything right about you becoming a spiritual scientist, starting tonight, if you haven't started before. Become a spiritual scientist just to do some intense and fascinating investigation as to why everything stays the same in spite of all your efforts to change it. That is, you stay the same, except, of course, for growing a little older every day and every week, and that in itself gives you a few tremors, doesn't it? You don't like that too well, because you don't know where you're going. That's your trouble! You don't know where you're going, and so you decide on your inner destination based on imagination and on neurosis, and you say, that's where I'm going, and you can't make yourself believe in it at all, can you? You can't believe in anything you tell yourself, because you also know that it's a fake, it's a lie. It's an imposition that you have allowed to happen. Have you ever been lost out on the highway? I'm sure you have. You drove left, right, up, down, took this turn and that lane and that highway. Change your directions every few minutes. Simply because you didn't know where you're going. And I've described your inner journey, what you're doing. And if you want to be intelligent tonight, you can learn how to slow your car down and stop and see that you have the map right inside your glove compartment all the time. And if you look at that map, you won't have to drive around wasting your life as you have up till now. So you're going to have to do something different. And I'll tell you there's so many things different you have to do. I'll give you one of them. You're going to have to stop taking pleasure in being frantic. What? I take pleasure in being frantic? It's one of the greatest resources and recourses you have. Well, you know what the word means. Frantic, nervous, jittery, out of control, and hoping no one sees you, right? That's why you save it till you get home, and then you collapse and fall on the bed. Frantic. Well, what else do you have except a frantic life? You don't have anything but that. You tell me. Tell me this enormous, wonderful peace of mind that you have. How you just glow with a love for all mankind. Should I go on? I don't feel like acting tonight, so I won't go on. See, it's very important. It's not important, it is essential that you begin to recognize a lie when you see one. That's the same as knowing the difference between good and bad. This means you're going to have to do some challenging. It means you're going to have to notice how angry you get, how you do change your mind and get frantic over that. And then you're going to listen and remember what you heard in this talk, and I'll repeat it for you. When you hear that growling nature inside of you, that frantic, furious, out of control emotions, when you see those bubbling waves, you're going to realize that they are not your real nature at all. Oh, listen to me. In your present illness, you want them to be. See, I know exactly how your mind operates. And I know exactly why you never change. I know why you stay morose and depressed. And I want to strike back at someone. But if you strike back, you'll go to jail, won't you? Or you'll lose your precious reputation. Someone will see through you and you want them to think you're nice. Every sadness, every flash of hostility and malice that you have, every frantic, desperate feeling that you have does not belong to you. You just think it does, and in your delusion and ignorance, you want it to. Because you can't imagine what life would be without your suffering. And you're just so concerned that somehow your life will slip away from you if you obey the instructions of unconfined truth. You know better than God himself. That is what you have told yourself all your days, and that's why you are so lost. Because you tell yourself that you know more than God Almighty. You know what to do. Come on. If you knew what to do, you wouldn't be so sick. It's because you don't know what to do that you're scared. And also scared to admit that you're scared. Oh, you're a pretty good performer, aren't you? Marvelous act. You've memorized the script. You've got your gestures ready. You've got everything set, whereby when you meet that crisis, you can pretend, for example, that you're shrugging off the crisis, that it doesn't bother you. That's one of your favorite roles, isn't it? What'd you lose? You lose your girlfriend? Lose your money? Lose an advantage? Fail to get a favor that you wanted? Get turned down by someone? The way you behaved in the exterior was not matched by the way you felt on the interior, right? See, you're a split human being. You're two people. Both of them unnecessary. Both of them pinchers, clamps, and you're caught between them. And you don't have to. How many of you would like to hear a very interesting story? I don't have one. I just wanted to ask if you wanted to hear a very interesting story. I don't have a very interesting story. What I have is a super very interesting story. See, I maintained my position by saying that. You remember all was said before, and add the following to it. Once upon a time, there was a family. And this family wanted to get out of the big, noisy, brawling town that they lived in. All the traffic and all the human beings. If it wasn't for human beings, this would be a happy world, right? Right. All right. So they moved to the countryside in a nice little home. Not a big, sprawling one, just enough for them, the parents and the 3 children. And as they get out there a little while, they get fascinated by the fact that there is a way to live other than in big town, with all the bustling markets and all this noise. And what fascinated them, and you'll see the point of this when we get to it, because you've been living the point of the story, they decided they wanted to do something with nature. And so they thought about it in the evening. They decided that they were going to go out, and they had a lot of room out and back. In fact, their backyard extended way back to across the field into the woods and the pretty stream beyond the woods. Large backyard. They decided they were going to grow grapes, just for their own pleasure and for their own consumption, of course. So they read a book about it, and the father got some grapevines, started them out. And they all together built a grape arbor, I guess you call it. Grape garden. And the afternoon, home from school and home from work, they all went out there and they had great fun in growing something natural. Cooperating with nature, that's part of it. And when you learn to cooperate with truth like you cooperate with nature, when you grow your backyard vegetables, your life will be different. But you don't do that now. You would rather hear the noise of your own mind in preference to the silence of being natural. All right. So pretty soon, little tiny grapes got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Pretty soon, one day the harvest day came. They all went out there and they all carefully, the right way you pick grapes, picked them up and put them in the basket and brought them in and washed them off. Ooh, delicious, sweet grapes. How many know the natural right pleasure of doing something like that, growing something for you? You know. You know that's a part of God himself, God being in nature. But it's not enough, of course. You can have 1 billion grapes and still be sick in your soul, right? Or $1 billion, or 1 billion thrills, or 1 billion plans, or 1 billion satisfying lies. Something happened, unexpected. After growing and picking the grapes for 2 or 3 weeks, they noticed that after a few days, the grapes they had picked turned sour. They were sweet for a while, and then they sat around, turned sour, and they didn't know why. You don't know why your arbor, your plans turn sour, do you? You don't understand it. And you get angry over it. I put all that work into that project, into that human relationship, and it turns sour. Why? Why do all these things happen to me? They happen to you for just one reason. Get it down. Your life turns sour because you are you. And no other reason. So the family, being conscientious and wanted to find out what happened, did some studying, investigating. They asked them, what did we do wrong? What happened that they didn't stay sweet? Fine at first, turned sour. Well, they found out that unknown to them, because they were just ignorant, this was a new thing to them, growing grapes, that some kind of a man-made ingredient that was foreign, shouldn't have been there, was in on the plant food that they'd put around. So it turned the grape sour after a while. They eliminated it, took it out of the way, and the grape stayed sweet. Point. your ego isn't going to like the point, but I'm going to tell you what it is, and we'll take care of the ego also. Look for the man-made addition. See, you have your idea of what sweetness is. It's your idea and nothing else. It's your imagination. The new what? What is it, gentlemen? The new girlfriend. The new car. You've got your plans, your schemes, and you alter them as you think you see an advantage to them. And everything turns sour because the sourness was built in it from the beginning. Because you think, and I know what I'm going to say isn't going to penetrate very deeply, but I'm going to give you a start on it. All your grape orchards turn sour because you think you can live without truth. You think that you're sufficient unto yourself. And every time you do that, every time you tell yourself that, you get panicky. You know, I started to talk by telling you, truth can't be confined, can't be imprisoned, can't be blocked. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore truth. You can't push it away. You can't cover it up. You can't shout at it and hope it'll go away. The truth is always here. And that's why you in spite of all your boastings and your lies and your slyness and your cunning, that's why you will never be happy, because you think you can do it without God. Now, one of the big fakeries by which people live is the fakery that you do have God in your life. It's synonymous with truth. You say you do have reality, what is good, virtuous. You say, but I do have that. I'm religious. I'm spiritual. I have moral codes. No, you don't. Oh, I've been much too gentle with you tonight. Now's the time to change all that. You are a roaming danger to yourself. Watch your step. You're whistling in the dark, down that dark path. Let me tell you something. You have no business being on that path at all. What are you doing there? I'll tell you what. You want something at the end of it. Something you've conjured up. Something you've got to have. Some person, some advantage, some goal, some thought, some prestige, some power, some position, some permanence, some security. I've got to have that. You don't know what danger you're in, and I'm telling you that you are. I personally don't want you to continue to walk that self-path any longer, because I know something that you don't know. You don't know it. You're not conscious of it. You have a dim suspicion, but you won't bring it up to consciousness. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I'm conscious of about you that you don't know. You tremble, but you don't know it. To know it means to abandon it. To abandon the path, and since you haven't abandoned it, you don't know it. You don't understand. You're in danger walking down there. And unless you listen to the all-powerful, free, beautiful, marvelous, helpful, friendly truth. Unless you listen to the truth, one day a monster is going to jump out from ambush, from besides that path. He's going to jump out and grab you, and you'll never be able to recover from it. Now, if you ignore what I just said, I want you to know that what I said will happen to you, because that is authentic spiritual prophecy. Never mind all this dreary, foolish stuff you hear about the future from religious talk. I'm giving you prophecy that if you pay attention to it, you can prevent the horror from happening to you from coming true. You can stop it. Why do you think I'm telling you this? Not to scare you, but to warn you, to tell you that your vanity and pretending that you know what you're doing, if you continue to listen to that instead of listening what you're hearing tonight, I tell you, have an absolute 100% certainty, verity, one day, because you're walking down that path, whistling in the dark, and pretending that nothing bad is going to happen to you, one day it is. Well, I have to tell you more than that. I would say, as a fair estimate, I would say that it happened to you 50 times today. You were ambushed. Well, aren't you even conscious of your own thoughts and reactions and feelings enough to know how you jumped like that when a certain thought came to you? Someone's going to do something bad to you? That's a good general one to look at. Someone, you know who they are too. Sometimes you do, sometimes stranger. Someone is going to do something. Someone's going to do something that'll take away your happiness, as if you have any. But someone's going to come along and rock your canoe a little bit, and you'll fall out and have to splash around, maybe getting water over your head, and you don't know how to swim. Someone's going to come along and do that. Did that thought occur to you, or did it happen? And because you don't know enough about spiritual principles to know you're supposed to be watching yourself all day long, did it happen to you, and then another one happened to you another 10 minutes later, and so that you never learned anything from your experiences? Don't you dare have the nerve to think that you know how to grow sweet grapes that are going to stay sweet. Maybe just 2 or 3 days, and then the marriage crumbles. And then the financial plan collapses. And all the time as you're walking this path that you shouldn't be on in the first place, this dark path. Why do you walk a dark path when you don't have to walk it? All the time you're going to get more terrified, because you sense you're doing wrong without having the decency to know that you have rejected rightness. Let's see. If you don't have to walk the scary path where the monsters are out there, you see, listen to this. The very fact that you're living an unconscious life, that's what it means to walk the dark path. Leading an unspiritual life, leading a vain, egotistical life. That means that you're walking the crooked path with the monsters on both sides. Now, the reason you're in danger is because you don't have sense enough to listen and to the instructions that says, stay home and learn that you don't really need what you think you need at the end of the path. You see, you've got an objective. And by the way, I better tell you what your grand, chief, horrible objective is that covers all other petty, minor objectives like getting rich and famous. Your first, foremost, and horrible, evil ambition and aim is to save what you call your existence. You want to save, now this is very important that you listen to the exact words I say. You want to save, keep going, what you call your life. Your ways, your habits, the way you dress, the way you look, car you drive, the country you live in, what you do with yourself all day long, your thoughts, millions of them, you want to hang on to those. Let me tell you why you're such an angry person all the time, furious. It's because you're afraid to lose your anger. Your hostility, which is burning you up. Your hostility is burning you up and you cling to it because you call fire freedom. Hell is not heaven. Oh, please, the next 6 months, repeat that phrase to yourself every day. Hell is not heaven. Yes, you take your hell as heaven because you call it your life, your existence. How tragic that you don't know anything else but your hell, and so you cling to that. I am telling you tonight, I am telling you, there really is a heaven. Not in some murky future, not physically high. I am telling you that there is a heaven, and I'll tell you exactly how you can find it. Be willing to give up your hell, and you'll have it. Now, you understand very well. You can't lie to me. You can't lie to yourself. You know exactly what a petty, little, sneaky human being you are. How lies and evasions and taking advantage of other people, that has become your way of life. Oh, and you both hate it and love it at the same time. You love it because you say, I'm me. I don't care what happens, I'm me. No, what you're saying, you should be saying, is I'm a monster. See, monsters, it simply means being apart from God. So all human beings, unless they've found God, are monsters. All human beings are monsters. God says this, and I'm telling you what truth says. If you will make a sincere, just a little bit of sincerity is enough, persistent, consistent effort to understand what you've heard tonight and in all other talks, if you will simply be here, you will know how to give up hell, which you've called heaven. Then you know what real heaven is. You've got it exactly backward. All right, you better do a little self-proving to yourself. How many of you were angry today? How many were depressed? How many lied to get an advantage of some kind? How many hated someone? How many were miserable? Do I have to go on? That's your hell! And you love it! And what you love now is tormenting you, isn't it? Now I'm going to make a very simple statement. And I want this simple statement, I want you to allow it to be more powerful than your weakness and your fears and your evasions, which have been going on all through this talk. What I'm going to tell you, I want you to allow it to be the dominating and only dominating factor in your life from now on. There is a God. God actually, truly exists. Now, you don't know that. Don't try to believe it. You don't have to do with anything what I said, but just take it as a fact. Don't try to feel it or anything. Leave the religious hypocrites to that. God actually exists. If you want to call it reality, truth, real virtue, cosmic wisdom, call it anything you want. Actually, it exists. It wants above all else for you to love it instead of loving falsehood, lies, evil, sickness, degradation. It wants for you to make contact with it. You have free will. God himself can't force you to come to his side and depart from the side you're presently on. You have free will, and you can choose hell if you wish. Well, you should know that. You've chosen hell since you were a little kid. You're not a little kid anymore. You're an adult. How old are you? I've proved to you that you have free will to choose hell if you want it. And I also want you to know that that same free will can enable you to choose heaven. That is, you can choose to start the path, the upward path to heaven. And how does it come? It comes by learning, by all the right attitudes, and above all, detecting that there's something very sick in you that doesn't want you to be saved. God wants you to be saved. Satanic forces do not. Put yourself on the side of truth by attending every single class. Don't miss a single class unless there's a good reason for it, like you have to work or something like that. That's legitimate. Put your heart here. You put your heart here, and God will then be able to reveal himself to you, and you'll know the difference between right and wrong, because you'll be living that rightness, and that'll be authentic and permanent happiness. Good night.